There comes a moment in every man's life when he finally understands that the world isn't shaped by truth, kindness, or good intentions. It is shaped by human nature, raw and unfiltered. And the men who survive, the men who rise, the men who become emotionally dangerous are not the ones who feel less, but the ones who understand their emotions so deeply that nothing inside them can be used against them. Most men walk through life like open books, easy to read, easy to predict, easy to manipulate. But every once in a while, a different kind of man emerges. A man forged in silence. A man who learned the invisible laws of human behavior so well that others cannot help but feel unsettled around him. Machiavelli never spoke about spirituality, but if you read him closely, you realize something. He understood the soul of human power, and he understood that a man's internal world is the first battlefield he must conquer before he ever wins anything outside. So let me tell you these 5 ruthless lessons, not as moral teachings, but as spiritual awakenings for men tired of being predictable, tired of being walked over, tired of reacting instead of ruling themselves. These lessons are not about pretending to be strong. They're about becoming the kind of man whose presence alone feels like a warning, the kind of man women cannot read, the kind of man other men do not try. The first lesson begins where most men fall apart. Emotional attachment. People think attachment is about love, loyalty, or connection, but Machiavelli would tell you it's about leverage. The more you need something, the more power it has over you. The more you fear losing something, the more easily you can be controlled. A dangerous man is not the one who avoids attachment. He's the one who holds it without being held by it. He feels, but he does not cling. He cares, but he does not collapse. He can walk away with dignity even when his heart is shaking. And that spiritual discipline, because that's exactly what it is, creates a force inside a man that others cannot understand. People sense it. They don't have the language for it, but they feel it. They say he's cold or emotionless, but he's not. He simply refuses to let his soul be taken hostage. That alone makes him a different species in a world full of emotional dependence. The second ruthless lesson is that your silence is your sanctuary and your weapon. Most men run their mouths because they cannot sit with themselves. They talk to fill space, to feel important, to feel connected. But every word you speak is a door into your mind, and every door invites someone in. Machiavelli warned that a leader must never reveal all of his intentions, because once people understand your emotional patterns, they can predict you. And prediction is the death of power. Spiritually, silence is the realm where a man meets himself. Strategically, silence is where others lose track of you. And emotionally, silence is where you gather all the power you once wasted proving yourself. A quiet man is intimidating because he creates an emotional vacuum. Others project their fears onto it. A loud man is easy to decode, but a silent man, he's a mirror that reveals other people to themselves. That alone makes him dangerous. Now, the third lesson cuts deeply. Never emotionally negotiate with people who feed off conflict. Every man eventually meets someone, sometimes a woman, sometimes a friend, sometimes even family, who thrives on emotional chaos. These people aren't looking for peace. They're looking for control. They create storms to watch you lose yourself in them. If you try to explain, defend, or justify yourself, you are already losing. Machiavelli believed that some individuals are simply born to stir disorder because disorder gives them power. The spiritual truth behind this is simple. If your peace can be stolen, it was never peace. It was dependency disguised as harmony. A dangerous man doesn't argue in storms. He stands still and lets the storm expose itself. When you refuse to fight chaos, chaos collapses without a purpose. You become the emotional mountain that no hurricane can move. The fourth lesson is the most uncomfortable one. You must learn to detach your identity from validation. Most men don't truly live, they perform. They adjust themselves like actors switching roles, praying that someone will applaud. Machiavelli warned that a man who seeks approval becomes a puppet, controlled by the hands of the crowd. Spiritually, it's even deeper. When your identity depends on recognition, you are spiritually homeless. You live in the minds of others. But the dangerous man, he lives in his own mind. He validates himself through discipline, growth, and internal standards. He becomes emotionally dangerous because no amount of rejection, praise, or humiliation can alter his direction. He is a traveler guided by an inner compass, not a wanderer chasing applause. And in a world addicted to attention, the man who doesn't need it becomes a mythic force. People feel drawn to him without understanding why. Finally, the fifth ruthless lesson. You must learn how to feel everything without letting anything rule you. Men are told to suppress emotions, to hide them, to bury them under work, sex, money, or distractions. But suppression isn't power. It's a ticking time bomb. Emotional danger does not come from feeling less. It comes from mastering what you feel. The spiritually powerful man can experience heartbreak without becoming bitter, anger without becoming destructive, disappointment without losing himself. He feels the full spectrum of human emotion, but remains the architect of his own reactions. This is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that a ruler must be both lion and fox. The lion feels the fire, the fox directs it. A man who knows his emotional storms intimately becomes impossible to manipulate because he recognizes the early tremors before they erupt. He owns the terrain of his soul. And here's the truth. These 5 lessons aren't about becoming cruel, heartless, or dark. They're about becoming unshakable. A man who moves through the world with spiritual depth and Machiavellian clarity becomes something rare. A man no one can misuse, no one can break, no one can reduce. He becomes a guardian of his own soul, not a victim of emotional tides. People cannot deceive him because he has studied himself. They cannot break him because he has rebuilt himself. They cannot control him because he has removed the strings. This is what it means to be emotionally dangerous, not explosive, not aggressive, but sovereign. A man whose emotions are aligned with purpose, not weakness. A man who walks with a quiet force that others feel before he speaks. A man who understands the world and himself with a spiritual sharpness that cuts through illusions. And in a society where most men are emotionally fragile, reactive, desperate for approval, easily manipulated, and quick to crumble under pressure, becoming this kind of man is not just power. It is evolution.